Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jordan and thank you so much for clicking on one of my bookish videos. Today I am so excited because I am finally sitting down to film my fall book recommendations. I have been gathering a list of books that I've been reading this fall and books that I love from past years that really remind me of just the fall season and that I feel like are perfect to read in these next few months. We now are in the middle of October, and so it's time to finally share, and hopefully you can read a few of these books towards the end of the fall and honestly anytime year round because these are some of my favorite books. So if you are interested in seeing my books that I recommend you read this fall, then keep on watching. Okay, we have to start off so strong with Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. This is actually releasing the week that this video comes out, which is perfect. You can go run to your local bookstore and pick up a copy if you're interested. Olivia Blake is one of my favorite authors, and this book is very much new for her in terms of the genre and writing style, but it still feels like classic Olivia. This book is a satirical fiction book, and it is following this group of girls in the sorority who seem to be the most powerful, popular, beautiful people. In this book, you're following a girl in the sorority as she is just joining it and kind of getting swept up in it, and then you're following their professor who is like their faculty advisor as she is discovering the secrets of the sorority. It turns out that there's a secret in this book that is a bit crazy and a bit wild, so I would definitely check the trigger warnings and what this book is actually about, but I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite books of the year. This book is really focused on white, cisgender, able-bodied, wealthy woman and white feminism and all of these takes on certain new wellness trends, and I thought it was so well done and so fascinating and really horrifying, which makes it a great satire. Okay, next we have a romance book that just released, and that is Soul Searching by Lila Sage. This is a book in a new series by her. She is the author of the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which I really love, and this is a paranormal romance, small town romance with very similar small town vibes, but definitely a lot more of cozy and spooky vibes because this is a romance that incorporates paranormal activity because the main character, Collins, can see and speak to ghosts. I absolutely loved it. It follows Collins, who has to go back to her hometown in Sweetwater Peaks to be with her family after she's dealing with losing her ability to see and talk to ghosts, and she meets Brady, who she has to stay with for the time that she's home, who is an upholsterer, who is just the perfect small town, very quiet and reserved, but very gentle man. And the atmosphere of this book is so perfect, especially for fall time. I love Lila's writing in this. I loved the romance and I loved the little spooky activity in it. Next, we have another romance and one of my favorite romances of the year, and that is It's Different This Time by Joss Richard. This book was gifted to me by Dell Romance, so thank you very much to them. First of all, the cover of this is just perfect for the fall time. It's so beautiful. This is a second chance romance that is a debut book for this author, and the writing and emotional depth of this story is crazy that it was by a debut author because it's so beautiful and so moving. It follows Adam and June, who were best friends that lived together in New York City during and after college. And at the beginning of this book, you find out that they haven't spoken to each other in 5 years since June left New York and ran away to LA. And they are forced back to be with each other and to be living back in their old apartment again in this book. And you just learn so much about their history and all the things that shape their relationship and what caused their relationship to fall apart. It was so beautiful. It was so wonderful to be with these characters. I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of my favorite second chance romance books, and it's set in New York City in the fall time, which is awesome. Next, we have one of my favorite dystopian sci-fi type books of the year, and that is Chain Gang All-Stars. This book I have heard a lot about, and I finally picked it up, and it absolutely blew blew me away. It is a top book for me. It's a book that I think everybody should read. It is essentially about a lot of different social justice issues, but it's especially breaking apart, critiquing, and analyzing the criminal justice and mass incarceration system in the United States, as well as things like police brutality. It is following this gang, this group of people called the Chain Gang All-Stars, and essentially they are prisoners who decided to join this like pro sports group where they compete in arenas and fight to the death. And it is like a popular betting sport that everyone in America watches and worships these people. And it just is so interesting and fascinating the way that history and information was woven into this book while it also being set in a dystopian American world, which doesn't seem very far off from where we're at right now. I think it is a must read. It's really horrifying and gruesome, so check the trigger warnings, but it is really worth the read. Next, we have another favorite romance book that I read recently, and that is If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. Again, the cover is just screaming fall vibes. This is a small town romance. It is set in a fictional world that's very similar to Stars Hollow in Gilmore Girls. It's following Cliff and Michelle. Michelle has to come to this small town when her mom passes away, and she has to take over running their family inn, where she meets Cliff, who is her next door neighbor, who is the local baker and a single dad, and he starts to basically take care of her and show her the ropes and help her out as she figures out how to run the inn and how to exist in the small town in a whole new way of life. It's just a sweet, cute book. I loved the romance. I thought it was so cute, and everything about this just screamed cozy reading. Next, we have a book that is a backlist book that has been out for a while, but one I will always recommend, especially in the fall and winter, and that is the Legendborn Cycle series by Tracy Deonn. This series is one of my favorite young adult fantasy series of all time. It is still currently being completed, but there are 3 books out, and if you are looking for a very unique and fresh fantasy world, very different from the fantasy books that are out there, I highly recommend this series. It follows Bree, who is our female main character. She is at UNC for like an early college program. She has just lost her mother, and she gets wrapped up in this magical secret society where she basically ends up joining this competition and is trying to compete to be one of King Arthur's like knights and squires and pages. Very quickly, she finds out that she's more powerful than she knew and that everyone else knew, and kind of gets wrapped up into this whole world that doesn't necessarily accept her or want her to be there. It's so good. I highly recommend it, and I love reading it in the fall. Next, we have a recent romance book that just released, and that is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is the second book in the Bride series, which is her paranormal romance series. If you can't tell, I love a good paranormal romance, especially in the fall. This one is definitely my favorite out of the 2. I really enjoyed Bride, but something about Serena and Kian in this book is so good. So this is following Serena, who is the best friend of Misery, the vampire in the first book, and then Kyun, who is an alpha of the Northwest werewolf pack, and Lo in the first book's best friend. Kyun meets Serena and instantly tells her that she is his mate, even though he is not her mate, and basically vanishes and leaves her alone. And Serena is the first werewolf human hybrid, and so she is under attack from all these different groups, and Kyun takes her in to protect her, and he finds out that Serena has basically been dying for the past few months and she doesn't want anyone to know. And there are a lot of secrets that are revealed throughout this book of why Serena has been so ill. This book is very spicy, so definitely look at the spice level and rating, but I loved it. I love Ali Hazelwood. I love when she writes paranormal romance. She does it by far the best, and I had a great time reading it. Okay, next we have a nice little literary fiction book, and that is Heart the Lover by Lily King, which also just released. This is, without spoiling anything, a prequel and a sequel of sorts to to Writers and Lovers, which is her most popular book. And I absolutely love this book. It was so emotional and so beautiful. It follows these three college kids who meet in college, and basically the girl dates and falls in love with one of the guys, and then they break up, and the girl ends up being with the other friend who she always had feelings for. Their life and relationship also ends up breaking up and falling apart, and she doesn't see him for quite so many years. The book is split up in parts, and the last part is so emotional and overwhelming. The writing that Lily King does on the power of love and grief and death was just so beautiful. I cried throughout this book, but especially the end of it. If you want a nice little thriller mystery for the fall, I highly recommend reading Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This is her new adult thriller that released over the summer, and I really enjoyed it. It did give me similar-ish vibes to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in the way that the main character Jet in this book was very similar to Pippa in A Good Girl's Guide, which I love because I love Pippa. This follows Jet. In the very first chapter, she is attacked and almost killed, and she wakes up in the hospital and finds out that they did something to her brain and she will have a brain aneurysm in about a week. And so she is determined to solve who attacked her and who will ultimately end up being her murderer, get justice. This book was so much fun. It was so enthralling to read. I was captivated and I was scared and did not know what was going to happen. I'm not very good at guessing what's going to happen in thriller books, but this one definitely kept me on my toes. And as always, Holly Jackson just delivers a enjoyable, fun, fast-paced, creepy thriller. Okay, a fantasy series that I've been reading and loving and is perfect for the fall is the Scorched Throne duology, and the first book is The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashim. This is a Egyptian inspired fantasy, romantasy, epic fantasy book, and it follows Sylvia, who was the heir to the kingdom of Jasad, where the people had magic, and 10 years ago her kingdom burned and she was the only survivor of her family, and she has been living on her own, masking her magic, trying to blend in and stay alive for the past 10 years. But in this book, she gets caught up in a lot of different trouble, and Aaron, who is the Nizal heir who hates Jasad, shows up, discovers that she is not who she truly is, and blackmails her into making a deal to help him track down the other Jasad rebels in exchange for not telling everyone her secrets. The romance was such a good slow burn in this book, and I just loved the Egyptian inspired fantasy world. It was very unique, and I cannot wait to read the next book. And next we have a young adult dystopian book that releases in November, and that is Coldwire by Chloe Gong. This was gifted to me by Simon Teen, so thank you very much to them. I read this book over the summer and I absolutely loved it. I love Chloe Gong. I think she is such a great writer, especially for young adult. I love her young adult books, and I've been on quite a dystopian kick this year, so I was quite excited to read a young adult dystopian. This is set in a world where, due to climate change and epidemics, this society has to live in the upcountry, which is a area built in virtual reality. So the people who can afford virtual reality live in the upcountry, which is this like beautiful land that doesn't seem affected by climate change, and those who can't afford the subscription live in the downcountry. And in this book, you're following Ariel and Leah, two different girls. They both are a part of Nile Corp, which is like this private corporation. And so Ariel is in Nile Corp's private like academy downcountry, living in like the real world, and Leah is in the Nile Military Academy in the upcountry. And throughout this book, they're both on a very similar mission in two different places, trying to take down this anarchist. This book is so unique. I love what Chloe did with it. It had so many plot twists and and cliffhangers, especially at the end, and really great dialogue on AI and virtual reality and just our dependencies on those types of systems and technology, especially as climate change and our world changes. So I'm excited for everyone to read it when it comes out on November 4th. Next is a young adult dark academia book that released back at the end of summer, and that is Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. I heard so much about this author and this book before it released, and I was so impressed because this is Ivy's debut book, and what a first book it was. This is set in a fantasy world where these 6 characters are attending Blackwood Academy, which is an academy in the afterlife. And so all 6 of the main characters are dead, and they're attending this academy where they are training and competing in these trials where they can either become one of the very beloved professors, people in the afterlife, or they can choose to forget and move on from their past. And so in this book, these 6 main characters are competing in one of the trials, and they're starting to realize that everything at Blackwood Academy is not how it seems. They're not being told the truth about their role in the afterlife and what comes next. And they're also fighting off this demon society. It was so good. I loved all 6 of the main characters and their point of views. If you enjoy multiple point of views, this is definitely a great book for you. I loved the dark academia setting, and the writing, especially about grief and what comes after death, was so beautiful. Next, we have another series that has been out for a while, but is one of my favorites that I will always recommend in the fall, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Jasad Heir. This is a young adult fantasy romantasy series, and it is set in this world, this Middle Eastern inspired world where Liaz, who is the main character, her brother was captured by the Empire, and so she makes a deal with the rebels to mask as a slave and infiltrate the Empire to try and collect information from them. And when she does, she meets Elias, who is a soldier in the Empire Academy, and the two of them instantly have a connection, and they kind of prompt each other to view the world around them differently. I love this fantasy world so much. It's so well written and fleshed out. I love the different romances. I love each of the main characters. You do get multiple points of view. I love the themes of injustice, colonialism, the empire throughout the book. Next, we have my favorite book of the year, and that is Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I know by now we're all sick and tired of me talking about this book, but if you're watching me for the first time, just know if you take a recommendation from me, and if you like fantasy and especially vampires, please read this book. This follows 3 different female vampires. They all were mortal women who were turned into vampires against their will in 3 different time periods. And so Sabine, Alice, Lottie are all turned into vampires, and it follows them as they experience the hunger, the obsession, the love, the lust, the power, and isolation of being a vampire. And throughout time, they meet each other and interact with each other. And the end is just fantastic in the way that this book and these 3 time periods and characters come together. It is so much fun. It's so unique. And I've read it 3 times this year because I love it so much. Another new release this year that came out at the end of the summer that is perfect for fall is Katabasis by R.F. Kong. I also love this cover. This is R.F. Kong's newest dark academia fantasy book. It essentially follows Alice and Peter as they take a descent into hell to save and rescue their professor. So it is mainly following Alice, who is this PhD student at Cambridge, and her beloved professor Grimes goes missing and is killed accidentally by her. And so she is determined to descend into hell to travel through the many houses and layers and attempt to rescue him. And Peter comes along with her for the journey. I love this book so much. I really don't think it's as academically challenging as people make R.F. Kong's writing out to be. There are so many different references to different literary devices and stories that are incorporated into this book. And and the way that R.F. Kong shaped and created her version of hell or the underworld was so fascinating. I also loved how, to me, this book was symbolism for Alice's journey through her depression. All in all, I love this book. So that is it for this fall book recommendations video. I hope that something in my list piqued your interest. A lot of fantasy and some cozy romances and paranormal romances, because those are my favorite to read during this season. But if you have any books that you think I should check out and read during this fall, I would love to hear, especially any literary fiction books, because I've been craving that genre recently. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy watching these bookish videos and want to see more from me, I would love it if you subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.